acknowledge that our work takes place on the unceded and occupied territories of the 575 plus Native nations. We are inviting you to take a moment to reflect on whose land you are living and working on. And if you don't know, to research and reflect. There is only one water, one earth, one sun, one sky, one moon. And we are here to work together peacefully. Welcome, everybody. My name is Joanelle Romero, and I'm going to be your host for today. I am also the founder of Native Women in Film and Television. And I'd like to introduce myself to you in my language. Donashi Oyate Rianka Cohen, people who see this woman, Joanelle Romero, Conce. That's Apache and Lakota. And we are going to have an extraordinary conversation. But before we get into it, I'd like to welcome Alex Rose Holiday. She's a traditional singer, model, and artist from the Dene Nation, and she will be performing an honor song in respect of women supporting women.
So this I'm going to sing is called Children of Our Homeland. Thank you.
Thank you, Alex. That was really beautiful, and we appreciate you. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 13th Native Women in Film and Television in All Media Film Festival, streaming 40 films directed by women. and 5 conversation series. Women Decolonizing the Entertainment Industry, a virtual experience streaming on Red Nation Television Network during the week leading up to the Academy Awards. Who Tells the Story Matters, Creating Systemic Change Through Arts and Media. Native Women in Film and Television in All Media Film Festival, the first and largest representation of Native and Indigenous women filmmakers. Native Women in Film is a program and serves under its fiscal partner, Red Nation Celebration Institute, the creative enterprise by Natives delivering to all people the stories that shape our world. We are 5 days till the Academy Awards. And so today's conversation, Native and Indigenous Women in Hollywood, the Actress Circle. And I'd like to introduce a few of my friends, colleagues, and new friends, and Academy members and award-winning actresses. My first guest is Kaylee Cohen, and she's a world champion boxer. I don't know how else to say it. I'm just going to be really like, I'm just like, oh, like it's like, wow, 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 wow. And she's coming off the hills. This is her first film in a lead role, Catch the Fair One. And it's all over the internet. Everyone's raving. It's been up for awards. And I'm just so proud of you. This is like, what a great film. And welcome, Keely.
Thank you, Tubutni, so much for having me. I would just like to introduce myself in my language and acknowledge the land that I'm actually speaking from, which is over in the United Kingdom, where a lot of our ancestors were taken as slaves. So just honoring the ancestors that was taken away from our people. Winikisuk, Watasuis, Mequininoag, Nutamaz, Sikonkamapanaak, Nutamaz, Nipmuc, Cherokee, Nutamaz, Cape Verde Islands, Natai, Providence, Rhode Island. Hello, my given name is Many Feathers, Many Talents. I'm from the Sikonkamapanoag tribe with lineage to the Nipmuc and Cherokee tribes, as well as a really rich heritage and links to the Cape Verde Islands, which is off the west coast of Africa.
Welcome. So I'm just going to introduce everyone and then we'll all come back into the conversation. I'd like to introduce Nora Dale. And Nora is new to our team here at Native Women in Film and Television. And she is an extraordinary actress, born and raised in LA. And she has, she's been featured in hit shows like Yellowstone, which everyone is watching, hopefully. And as well as upcoming projects with Ben Stiller, and it'll premiere on Apple TV on Christmas Day. And she's also starred as a co-lead in the feature film The Oath, out next summer, featuring Billy Zane, mutual friend, and other Native actors. Welcome, Nora.
Thank you so much for having me, Joanelle. I feel so privileged to have made your acquaintance and been part of this community. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Our next guest is Tina Lameman. She won and picked up Best Actress at our Red Nation International Film Festival last year for Monkey Beach. And I'd like to introduce Tina.
Hi, Janelle. Thanks for having me. That's it. I'm from the Beaver Lake Cree Nation, northeastern Alberta, Mississauga. I'm living currently in Edmonton, which is on our Treaty 6 territories. And my Cree name in English is Gray Grizzly Bear Woman. Like, I'm turning gray, I don't know. But I'm really, really honored to be here and to meet the rest of these talented ladies. Let's have fun.
And a dear friend I've known for 500 years is Kimberly Guy. I know I know Kimberly's Kimberly Norris. So Kimberly, you can say your last name, but Kimberly, it's like the G's and the R's in my mouth just don't happen. Okay, so Kimberly is an extraordinary actress, and she's been in this for a hot minute, like myself. And so at one time, her and I were always working on episodic television back in, I don't know, dinosaur days. Anyway, well, we're going to talk about that. But Kimberly is a professor at UC Riverside Department of Theater, Film, and Digital Production. And you've seen, oh my God, she's won it at our Red Nation International Film Festival as Best Actress. She's been in films like Catch the Fair One with Keeley, which we'll talk about, which she's brilliant in, and The Dark Divide, and she's been on Reservation Dogs and Rutherford Falls and The Wilds, and August of Osage County. And I mean, I could just go on and on and on with her credits. And I'd like for you to welcome everyone, Kimberly Norris.
Thank you so much, friend. Guerrero. That's the way my husband's folks say it, which means warrior in Spanish. So it was a very, very good married name. And certainly from his Yaqui and Rarumari side, it's a very powerful lineage to marry into. I'm coming from out here in Riverside, which is Gabrielino, Tongva, Korea, Serrano land, kind of a meeting place out here in Riverside. And in my language, I'd like to say, hello, relatives. My name is Quetzalcoatl or Bluebird in my inland Salish language. And it's just a joy to be here with everyone and to meet Nora and to see my daughter, Kaylee over there, and to meet you, Tina. So nice to meet you and good to be with you, Joanelle, always.
Yes. Well, we're going to have a conversation and about Hollywood, about being women of color in Hollywood and working in today's entertainment industry. Brendan, could you put us all on screen together? I think that's how I'd like it to go today. So I'm going to pose a question, and then I'll refer it to one of our guests. The question I'm going to pose, or statement, however you want to take it, is Hollywood really being inclusive when they use the word diversity when it comes to Native and Indigenous talent? Or are they just checking the box still? And is it still a black and white conversation today? It's a loaded question, but I think it's one that can be looked at as a difficult question, but it's also a question that really needs to be addressed, especially in 2022. So I'll open that with Kimberly.
Yeah, it's a fantastic question. And, this is one of the first times, and I'm so grateful that I feel like I can have a really optimistic answer. And I think Standing Rock changed all that. And the water protectors and our sisters and brethren up there and non-binary folks. And I think that that's what changed it, because up until that point, you would go into a room and they would say, nobody cares about Indians, but usually there were some expletives thrown in there. And now they can't say that, they couldn't say that anymore. And then also, I think, Joanelle, when you and I were doing the diversity rounds at Fox, at ABC, at NBC, when they did those back in the 90s, I do think there were some good hearts in the process, no question about it, but there wasn't any follow through. And, it wasn't just my heart was broken, several hearts were broken. I mean, I would still be able to squeeze out a career in the 90s, squeeze it out. But, there were folks that were as talented or more talented than me that weren't getting the shot. And they would get so excited when they go on these diversity, showcases, and then there would be no follow through. I'm seeing a distinct difference now. And I kind of wonder, were the interns back during those diversity days now vice presidents and presidents, and in the greenlighting situation at networks, at different production companies, because I'm seeing a real shift in wanting more, particularly women of color in the room, above the line, making the decisions about who gets, exactly what you said at the beginning of this, who gets to tell the stories, because it's crucial. So I do think there's a significant move forward. And I think there's a significant move in that the screens, which are our modern day storyfiers, that the screens that we look at and the stories that we see really do reflect the world that we walk around in. And that is, it's color, it's culture, it's, you know, gender choice, it's body shape. It's like everything is starting to look more like our real world. And I think that our audiences are so savvy and their bullshitometer is so on point that they're like, nope, that's, you know, that's your idea. That's Hollywood's idea of what my world looks like. I want to see what my world looks like. I want to see people that look like me. And then I also want to see people I never get to hear from. And so I think things are changing for the better.
Well, that's very optimistic. And I like being optimistic, but I also like looking at the facts and the data. And so realistically, you know, when the Harvey Weinstein story broke in January of, October of 2017, January 7th at the Golden Globes of 2018, all the actresses came out with Me Too and Why We Wear Black. So we immediately got together here at our institute and initiated a call to action, hashtag Why We Wear Red. And there is, so when we launched that call to action, Madam Secretary Deb Haaland, back then, you know, partnered, she still partners with us, but we move this forward with this, is that, you know, these are these are the facts right now. Okay, so in 1977, there was the first contemporary Native woman story, a girl called Hatter Fox, right? And that was my first lead role, but it was the first contemporary in the US Native woman story. It took Hollywood 42 years later, I'm gonna let that sink in, 42 years later to do Netflix's Chambers, where there was a contemporary story with a woman lead in it. And so the other fact, as far as networks, NBC, CBS, Fox, and the other one, ABC, from 2003 to 2019, it had been 16 years that America did not see a Native actress on episodic television. They had completely written us out. So Kimberly and I were working before then on episodic television, the 80s, early 90s. And then all of a sudden, the parts just went away. And then all of a sudden, 2003 happened that first year. And I was like, okay, what's going on? And then another year, and then another year, and then another year. So in 2019, here's where we're at today. In 2019, they put out episodic television series with Tan Chun and one with Irene DeBart. Today, 2022, none of us are working on episodic television. Guest star, lead, there isn't. I could say there's one, but I'm not even gonna, because that doesn't mean anything to me. When the networks come back and say, well, there's one, no. We're not even as extras drinking the coffee behind the lead actor. So this is why this conversation is really important, to hear from you, how we're going to change that, how we're going to make a difference, how we're going to get in that door as executives in these seats, and also creating like Weatherford Falls and Reservation Dogs, right? And that's a start, and we need more on primetime television, because cable is one entity, primetime television is a whole other thing, because that's into middle America. That's who tells the story matters. That everyone watches episodic television. I don't know how long that's going to last, but as of today, they're still watching episodic television. So, but anyway, so let's go to Keely. How do you feel being like, this is your first lead role and you're just, you know, you've been like a fighter, woo! So,
I mean, I'm just honored to even had getting this opportunity to tell this very important story and kind of get thrown into the wolves den, because that's kind of how I roll. It's kind of been my theme to my life. So I'm just honored that I even had the opportunity, my very first opportunity, to have such a big responsibility. I was really open and willing to take that because I found a lot of parallels with my boxing career. I try to bring awareness to, you know, our native country, Indian country knows what goes on in Indian country, but the rest of the world doesn't. So I, you know, took the same type of approach to tell this story, very important story. And especially being an Afro-Native or Afro-Indigenous or Black Indian that we definitely don't see, especially the Northeast woodland tribes being represented, even amongst our own Native community. I knew that was a huge step in, and I kind of did these things backwards. So I really don't know how to compare it to what it used to be or how like the steps that you guys seen. But as a spectator and a viewer of movies and episodic television, I have seen quite a shift. As Kimberly stated, you know, after Standing Rock, everybody kind of was like, oh, wait, stuff is really happening. And then people started having more of the conversation. So I did start seeing more interest from Hollywood to try to, you know, sprinkle a little red skin blood on their movies. But I love the momentum that it's getting. So I'm new here. I'm just honored to even be able to kind of cross over into our modern day storytelling. And I was very thankful to Joseph Kubota Vladika, who actually approached me with Catch the Fair One back in 2017. And his approach, I would love everybody, native or non-native, to take a page out of his book, because he knew this was such an important story to tell, but he knew it wasn't his story to tell. He wanted to tell the story, but he wanted to get the perspective of the people, of me and the community I represent as well. So very early on, we clicked with that, and just kind of building off the momentum from my boxing career. I hope, even though I'm a newcomer, I'm going to be here for a while. So I have a lot of boxes to check off, being just a person of color, a woman, two-spirit. I am Black, I'm Native, I'm all over the place, but it is a good thing. I think Native country and film, you know, we don't fit in a box. You know, we have our own shape. We have so many stories to tell and so much talent, and we're funny as hell too. So I was so excited to see Reservation Dogs, because me personally, I was so happy to see not 1980s story of somebody getting into a village. But we know the history. Unfortunately, our country doesn't want to take responsibility. So we still knew those history stories. But I wanted people to see what I see when I go hang out with my people, and kind of what it is on the everyday, and just especially for our young audience as well. And you know, it was very funny, but it was also touching on things like missing and murdered Indigenous women, like suicide, like these things that we have. So the intertwining of the activism and storytelling, I think, is really prevalent right now. And I'm just happy to be somewhat a part of it.
Yeah, yes, absolutely. And I encourage everyone in our listening audience to go see this film, Catch the Fair One. It's a great film. Tina.
Hi.
Hi. What do you feel about what's going on?
What do I feel about it? I started too in the early 90s as an actor. And back then there were, I'd say, no Afro-Indigenous actors anywhere. Any audition I had was for period films. Obviously I don't part, so I never got anything. I must have auditioned for every single movie in the 90s that came up, every single TV series that had Indigenous content, and kept getting turned away. No, you don't look Native. No, you don't look Native. I knew I was Native. I grew up on the Reis. Daughter of a chief, my whole life. And to have somebody else dictate to me what I'm supposed to look like.
Yeah.
And that there was no current content of modern day at that time. And even when they did, they were still adhering back to the Hollywood version of what a Native's supposed to look like, even in modern day. So for me, yes, the storytellers do matter. Of course, it's crucial. We have to tell our own modern day stories. But we also have to change the gatekeepers in these auditions. Because it's pretty hard to audition somebody of Indigenous culture if you don't have a clue what that is. And you're adhering back to past version of what Indigenous is. I welcome people like Angelique Newt-Thunder, who's a casting agent. those people need to be Indigenous if you're going to cast Indigenous, especially current. That was such a wonderful thing to see when I found out about her. And, you know, we need more people like that. We need casting directors who can properly say, yes, this is Indigenous, how we are. This is how we look. This is how we sound nowadays. That to me is very, very important. And it's starting to change, but not fast.
Exactly.
I'm getting old.
Yeah. I know. Exactly.
But
Yeah.
you know, to see people like Kaylee, you know what, girl? It's so nice to see someone like me finally
Oh.
making it when I was pretty much the only one in all of Canada. Never mind the United States, but all of Canada, right? So it is so nice to see our young ones coming up who are showing the true image of who we are. We are not all pure Cree or Dene or Salish, whatever. We are part Black, you know. We're not just part white, which for some reason everyone thinks you have to be part white. I don't know why, but there are a lot of us who are part Black, you know. There's some that are part Asian. I have cousins who are part Asian, you know. So to bring that modernness in, and it's welcoming. It's so heartwarming to see that it's starting to change that way. So.
Yeah, that's pretty powerful, Tina. You know, you brought up stereotype, you know. I can remember, you know, when I go up for because I keep getting sent up for 70-year-olds. I don't know what's up with that. I mean, I am 65, but I keep getting sent up for 70-year-olds, but they keep saying she's too sexy. It's like, but this, you know, well, what? This is how we are. This is how we look. It's like it's, you know, it's like
I have gray hair, but I don't have any wrinkles.
Yeah.
And, you know, that's just the way it is. You know, we don't age the way other people do, I guess. I don't know. But
yeah.
like, well, can you look wrinklier?
I know. I know.
Gray hair ain't enough. Huh? Okay.
I know. Right? Who knows? It's, you know, it's the bottom line is who tells a story matters, and we're making our own content. And I know for our Red Nation Celebration Institute, we've been in it for a hot minute for 27 years doing original programming. So yeah, it's, we're doing it. That's what matters. I think that's what really matters. Nora, you've worked with our buddy, Billy Zane.
Yes, Billy Zane. He's out there working, and, you know, it was so great to have him as an ally on set for this, especially this last project I did, which was an indie film in upstate New York. And I really, I truly am so grateful for him and Eugene Braverock and Mark Braverock, his uncle. They really embraced me as family. And, you know, I haven't been in the industry for very long either. I've just started to find some professional success in most recent years, but my experience of inclusivity has been like a very like otherness. Like I'm part Mexican, I'm white, I'm part Choctaw, but you know, there's so many stereotypes going into auditions, and so because I don't speak Spanish or I don't, you know, speak another language, it's been difficult for me to feel connected to any of my cultures, and it's been quite difficult. And I see how much my dad has suffered losing touch with his family. My grandfather was born in Silver Creek, Mississippi, and lost touch with most of his family when he was you know, sent to residential school and grew up without his language and his culture, and just trying to survive in the South. So much racism. He moved west and ended up in LA, and that's how, you know, and where my family has stayed. And, you know, even on my Mexican side, trying to avoid racism in LA and integrate into American culture. And, you know, it kind of forced us to speak English to them so that they could understand English and speak properly and be treated as intelligent and sophisticated people. And, you know, it's been a journey for me coming into the entertainment industry and learning about my different cultures through my work. It's been like a gift. And, but again, like I am very cautious about people trying to fetishize my race. And like, back to what you were saying, like about age, people are ageist, they're sexist. I even mentioned to like a female producer, like, wouldn't it be great if, we could hire more women of color on set? There's so many men, and mostly white men, on set. And I just, you know, I felt sometimes like I was under a microscope and I needed more female allies. And they were hard to come by. You know, it's a boys club. And she kind of chuckled at me because she was like, what are you talking about? Like, I love being one of the guys. And I'm like, you know, I think that in the future, if, you know, if and when I start producing, I'm gonna make an effort to hire people of color, especially women of color, because they're out there. And I don't know why, you know, it's been such a clique in the entertainment industry, and why it's so hard to cast women of color, and why we're just like the token woman of color and in shows or films. And, you know, it's like, I think what you're doing and who tells the story matters. Like, that is such an amazing mantra to have, because going forward, you know, I'd love to honor the people who have gotten me here and who have helped me not only in my career, but just on this spiritual journey that I've been on. And Mark Braverock is one of those people. He he has a nonprofit he runs in Alberta, Canada, where he reintegrates children, Indigenous children who've come out of foster care and lost touch with their families and their culture and their language. And he brings them back and, you know, takes care of them and helps them recover from addiction and alcoholism. And, you know, the government there is trying to stop what he's doing, but he's relentless. And I'm so honored to know him and to call him a friend. And I'm right now trying to get funding for a documentary, and I can't wait to visit him and see him and honor his legacy, and in turn honor the legacy of my ancestors, and, you know, make my family proud.
Well, thank you, Nora. It's, you know, I'm just looking at all of the Brady Bunch boxes here. And all of you are so gorgeous. And you know, if you're tuning in right now, we're speaking with Tina and Keely and Kimberly and Nora about being women of color, Native Indigenous women in the film industry, working in Hollywood in 2022, and what that looks like and how we're going to move into the future. You know, you brought up Standing Rock, Kimberly, and for the listening audience, in 2015, Red Nation Celebration Institute worked with this nonprofit in North Dakota, and we partnered with them in bringing in youth from South Dakota and North Dakota to lead the first Indigenous Women's March here in Santa Monica during our festival. And that was November of 2015. And these kids had never been on a plane or seen the ocean or even, you know, participated in a march or an award ceremony. So they were just like over the moon. They were just like taking it all in and so excited and inspired. And, you know, and all of us, you know, we're saying, you know, you can do this. You could do this in your homelands. You can, you know, we will support you, you know. So they went home And that April 2016, those youth woke the world to Standing Rock. The adults came in later, right? But those youth were the ones that had the vision. And I always, when Standing Rock is brought up, I always want to let the audience know who really woke the world to Standing Rock. And the Mequininoag, the sacred water and the pipelines, it was the youth. So the reason why I work so hard in everything that we do here at the Institute is to inspire our youth and to rise them up, because I never underestimate the youth. We have youth here today, Nora, you know, all of us are youth in heart. And so, you know, it's to inspire the youth and to believe in them and don't underestimate them. I mean, being a boxer, Keely, you know, someone that believed in you, right? And you got out there and you just, ooh, so powerful. I do a little bit of boxing, but you know, hey. In the gym, it's nothing like you though.
No way, though. I didn't start with everybody believing in me. You know, it was quite the journey. I'm still on it, but it's good to finally get the respect. It's a hard job.
Yeah, I know, but I'm just saying, you know, when the youth are supported, they could do anything, become somebody in this world. So I just want to put that statement out there, because Standing Rock was an important bridge to where we are today, right? So Kimberly, I wanted to ask you, being a professor at a university and working with youth, young people, young minds, what has that been like for you in regards to the entertainment industry, or is it in regards to the entertainment industry?
Yeah, you know, it's just the work that I do at UC Riverside now is just an evolution of, you know, this was the very first thing I started when I started in this industry. My first job was in 1990, I think, and then I was cast in a soap opera in 1991. And so all the grandmas used to watch As the World Turns, and all the Indian grandmas. And so they called up CBS and they're like, hey, you've got an Indian girl on your show. Like, can you send her out to Lower Rural, South Dakota to talk to our kids? And so it trickled down and got to my dressing room, and I'm like, yes, I will. So I got on a plane, went to Lower Rural, and that was one of my very first times I went out to their reservation. I'd done it in Oklahoma where I was born and raised, but to get to go out into the reservation. And then it kind of just started from there. So I started working with reservations in South Dakota. Then the word went to like North Dakota and Montana. And then I worked all over, you know, North America and into Canada as well with our youth. But the thing was, I kept going back and back and back to these reservations. Like, I ran out of stuff to talk about. I'm like, well, what if I teach them what I do? And so I started teaching them drama, and we started tackling some of these issues, Kaylee, that you're bringing up that are ravaging our communities: suicide, substance abuse, anger issues, generational trauma. And so we started working using drama, which is usually with us comedy, but using that to address some of the issues. And then digital production came along. And so I started taking a digital camera out, and we started actually shooting some of these and making like short films, which led into the Akatubi Film and Music Academy. And one of our graduating students is Tazba Chavez, who is a writer and director on Rutherford Falls and Reservation Dogs. And she's a writer on Resident Alien. And so it was like, that's exactly what you're saying. It's like you so into the youth in our community. And it's like, that was always my goal. It's like, someday you're going to hire me. That was always what I told him, someday you're going to hire me. And so to see it, you know, coming true is just really, really powerful. So it does go very much. This past quarter at UC Riverside, I asked if, so can I please do a business of acting class? Because I feel like we need to get, you know, I want to share with my students what I'm going through, what you're going through, Joanelle, what Kaylee, Nora, Tina, what you all are going through, so that they can be prepared. They don't have these like stars in their eyes. They can be really prepared to not only for the rational, practical aspect of getting into the industry, headshots, resumes, reels, but the emotional and spiritual reality, you know, of getting into this space. So, you know, when you mentioned that, Joanelle, it makes me want to kind of do this for our community as well. Like do a to do an online where students, native youth, and they don't have to be youth. They can be a young, they can be 50 years old and wanting to get into the industry, or 70 wanting to get into the industry, but have a business of acting class for our native folks to help them, know how to take a good headshot, how to do, we're talking on the res, like they don't have to go to a big fancy thing. It's like, that's what I teach my students, it's just like, how do you do your own headshots? How do you, reach out to an agent, or reach out to, get into casting on Backstage or something like that. So we're going to do that. We're going to make that happen.
Okay, well, we can, and I'll tell you, I'll share with you and invite you. First, I want to say that all of you here today always have a seat at this table. So everything that we do here at Red Nation Celebration Institute is yours. The film festival, the Native Women in Film, the TV, our board of directors, we do this for you guys to take hold of it. Take hold of it. Be a part of it. Engage. And I'm saying that also to the listening audience. So Kimberly, in 1995, when we launched the Institute, we launched Native Youth Matter. If I could see it, I can be it. And we were going out, IT was going out to the reservations and doing motivational and all of that. And then we started not getting funding to be able to do that, right? So we reframed, reimagined when the pandemic hit, what we can do. And this is what we're doing. We have launched, and it will be launched in June. It's called Native Indigenous Student Academy for Cinematic Arts. And we have a whole list of mentors. We have a script lab. We have a mentorship lab. We have our student film festival, and we have our student awards, because during our Red Nation International Film Festival, we always had submissions for students to submit. But it got there were so many students submitting that now we have to have it as it's standalone. Just like with Native Women in Film, that's how Native Women in Film became a standalone entity out of the Institute, because there were so many submissions, right? So today for our festival that's running this week, 40 films directed by women. Why isn't this in the trades? Why isn't this, we send press release. Why isn't this in Variety? Why isn't this in The Reporter? Why isn't this in LA Times? What is up with that? What is that backslash or whatever? I don't know what word. Kimberly's a professor, maybe she knows a better word.
Hashtag would be the
putting you on it. So, but we've sent the press releases out, right? So what's up with that? So that's another vein to sort of figure out why that isn't happening, or why sometimes it happens and why sometimes it doesn't happen, or when they feel good about it, whatever. But the bottom line is we have our Native Indigenous Student Academy for Cinematic Arts. And all of you, Tina, Keely, Kimberly, Nora, you're all invited to be a part of that. And Kimberly, if you want to do the class for that, an acting class for the Academy, I'm definitely inviting you to do that if it be your will, if you would like to do that. And we also have RNCI Crew, which is behind the camera, below the line, and we launched that in 2020. We work with a lot of the film commissions across the country. And so that's for behind the talent, and students can sign up. It's powered by Cruvy, and Cruvy is the go-to database for all the studios and networks to look up for people like us behind the counter, PAs and stuff, and they'll go in there and they'll say, oh, we want to be more diverse, so let's go to RNCI Crew at Cruvy and see who we can hire. Oh, we can hire Nora, we can hire her, So that has been happening, and that's been very, very successful. So I want to give everyone another question or another topic, because we're coming up on the hour. Keely, what are you up to today?
Oh, what am I not up to? Actually, currently right now, I'm in the UK. I also help my husband is my boxing manager. He also oversees about 23 females. He has maybe over 10 champions and oversees a company that has over 80 fighters. So I'm one of his fighters. He was my best friend and manager for a long time. And then, I don't know, we got jumped by Cupid and it works. I don't know. It is what it is. But our fighter, Ebony Bridges, she fights for a world title on Saturday on DAZN. So I'm here wearing my many feathers and many hats. So I'll be in the corner coaching her. As well as, we have a unification bout. I'm the current WBA, IBO, and WBO super lightweight champion, and we have an undisputed fight coming hopefully this year, but I had to kind of listen to my body and take a little break because last year was a little brutal. As well as I have representation now, which is awesome. I'm represented by ICM and Authentic Management, and I've been auditioning my behind off. Even if I never wanted it, I just really enjoy doing the work right now. And I've been auditioning for everything that they send me, and just really trying to work that muscle just like I do for boxing. And I still work with my acting coach. Every Monday I'm hopping in an improv class and just really try to do exactly what I need to do, just like with boxing, working those muscles so that when I get the call back that I'll be ready for it. And I'm just such a sponge right now for this because boxing isn't forever. And I really kind of fell in love with the storytelling and want to tell those important stories and be a familiar face, not just get the role because they need to check a box, but because I'm a really gifted artist. And, just to kind of, I see the effect that me showing up who and everything I am and being very proud of it. Took a long time to get to this point, but I've seen a lot of motivation from the youth, especially mixed youth. That get targeted all the time. And I was one of those youths. I didn't grow up on a reservation. I grew up in East Providence, Rhode Island, where it's predominantly Portuguese and white and black. It's a big melting pot. But as I said before, I never feel like I fit in. And I looked at that as a negative when I was a kid. Always having to prove myself and fight for something and fight this and fight that. And as you mentioned, stereotypes, like I'm supposed to have this long black hair and I have to have a pet raccoon or whatever crazy stereotypes these people have is ridiculous. So I had to fight stereotypes and be representative of the indigenous people I represent. We're from the Northeast Coast. We're not gonna have pin straight hair. We're next to saltwater. So I find opportunity in educating. Tell you, I know who I am. I know what line I'm from. I know what islands of my family's from in Cape Verde. So this whole journey has turned into me. It's a cathartic journey because it's helped me to heal being so vulnerable. But I'm so open to do it because I see the impact I have on the community. I always say that I would trade every belt, every purse I've ever had, and just it means more to me to have the value of the response I get from the community that called me a Black girl trying to be Native and wanted to prove something. Now I'm cuz and hey fam, but I've gotten countless amounts of suicide notes from kids saying, I saw you fight on HBO and you look like me. Or I went to the VAWA conference a couple years back in South Dakota, and there was this little girl, she was Black in Lakota, but there's nobody that looked like her. She was 5 years old and she had curly, crazy hair like me. And she just hugged me and looked at me. And she was like, oh my God, like you have hair like mine. And then her mom sent me a picture of her in a Taekwondo class, like slamming boys around. It was amazing. So that's what I'm up to right now. Just kind of taking the calls when I'm called to action to do it, visiting reservations or communities to tell my story and also to listen to stories, because I feel like that's really important, just to be a listening ear so I can understand all kinds of perspectives. And whatever the creator has for me right now, I'm all for it, whether it's, acting, I do commentating, helping my husband manage, writing, producing, directing, whatever I can get into, I'm here for it. So let's do this.
Let's do it. And what I'm hearing from all of us today is, the challenges of being Native Indigenous women. And I haven't addressed this. I'm Mescalero, Apache, and Dene and Paiute, and Spanish Sephardic Jew. So, I come from all of that, right? And I'm proud of all of that. Some people say Spanish Sephardic Jew means Latina, but that's a made up word. I like to use the bloodline of truly of who I am and honor that. And, you know, my dad was born on the Jicarilla Reservation, but I grew up in Hollywood. My mom was an actress, and she did all the Elvis Presley films. So I was very blessed to be a part of that whole 60s scene on the MGM lot. She would take me to work with her. So I was able to watch and learn from very powerful people in this business, you know, from Colonel Parker to Elvis Presley, Nancy Sinatra. And that had a huge impact on me. And I think that's what standing on their shoulders and my ancestors' shoulders have kept the momentum in me to keep going, right? Because in this industry, being a woman of color, 99% is no. If we're talking about youth and how tough it is, 99% is no. So it's that one yes that you get to fly on, right? It's that one yes that you just get to fly on. And I've been on that yes my whole life. Because when they say no, that's my revolution. The more they say no, the more I become a boxer. Anyway, in my dreams, you know, anyway, I'll let you do that, Kaylee. That's a tough row.
Yeah, leave the fighting in the ring to me. I got it. Don't worry.
Yeah. Okay, good. I'll come watch you. I would get knocked out. No. So Tina, what are you up to, and what would you like the listening audience to know about you?
I'm not really up to much right now. Just doing, I lost count of how many auditions. I just got 2 emails for 2 more. Just keep auditioning, and hope one of them catches, I guess. You know, it's like cast the net out there, see what happens. But there's a lot more going on. So they're just coming a lot quicker, not like in the old days, maybe 1 a year, you know. So that's all I'm doing really, and just really spending time with my grandchildren. That's my joy, right?
Yeah.
So they're funny. They make me laugh. And I wrote a script. Yeah, I wrote the story of my parents growing up. Well, not growing up, but how they met in the 60s. And Edmonton, my father being full-blooded Cree, my mom being half Cree and half Black, growing up on a Reis.
Wow.
And how they met. And there's a lot of comedy in it. Like, it's their stories, really. It's all the stories they told us over the years. There's some serious, but there's a lot of funny stories in there and a lot of insightful stuff. So that's, you know, I'm working on that, and hopefully one day somebody will look at it and say, hey, let's produce it. Great, right? Because they need to be told, right? By ourselves. And I think it would be inspirational for a lot of our kids to see a story like that. So that's what I'm working on.
That sounds amazing.
Yeah.
I'm in awe of you that you wrote a script, because to be a writer and to actually complete a script is awesome. That's like, congrats. And Nora, your films are coming out soon, right?
Yeah, so I have a show right now that just premiered. That the last time we spoke, I was anticipating it premiering, but it just premiered. It was supposed to premiere in Christmas, but because of COVID and everything and post-production being delayed, it just premiered a few weeks ago. So in February is when it started showing, and it's called Severance. It's a Ben Stiller show about work-life balance. It's kind of a dark, like thriller, like sci-fi show, and it's really exciting to be a part of. But I had sort of like imposter syndrome going into it, because there were so many big stars, Patricia Arquette and John Turturro and Christopher Walken, and then little old me, and I was like, what am I doing here? But, you know, I had to keep reminding myself, I've worked really hard to be here, and I deserve to be here. And so I'm so grateful, and I feel so privileged. Everything is such a privilege, but, you know, carrying on the tradition of storytelling and piggybacking on what you said, Tina, telling a story only you can tell, and something that, you know, youths and people of all ages can relate to, and seeing themselves represented on screen. And I'm working on a script as well. And like I said, a documentary, but I have, you know, I have such a support system around me that I wish I had had earlier in my career, and it's inspired me to want to do more to reach out. And so I made a friend on the set of Yellowstone. His name's Daryl Begay, and he's an Indigenous interpreter, and he's you know, their consultant on the set of that show in 1883. And he actually invited me a couple months ago to, I'm just reading it here. It was called Rise Above: Emerging Voices in Entertainment. And they reached out to the youth on the reservations, and had these workshops where these young kids learned how to write short stories, and, you know, are inspired to work in the entertainment industry, even if they don't live in LA or New York or places where castings are typically taking place. Because now with the internet and with Zoom, like, we can all meet remotely. And it was just such an honor to be part of reading this short story by this young woman named Lillian Charles, and just to continue to meet people in the community. And but my film that's coming out, I'm not sure if it's going to be out in summer. Everything's kind of delayed with COVID and everything, and it's been kind of a bummer. Like the past 2 shows I was on, like not being able to do like the traditional like wrap parties or, you know, premiere parties, because it's just such like a financial and just health risk. And so everyone's kind of remotely being interviewed, and it's just a different ball game now. But exciting, because, you know, I can travel and still be home with my family and audition for stuff all over the place. And so I think that's really something to keep in mind if people all over the country or in Canada or wherever you are, you know, there's always an opportunity to get your story or your talent out there. You know, just, we have iPhones and you can film stuff on there and just put it on YouTube, or do what you can, reach out to Joanelle, you know, and find people who are willing to collaborate with you. And that's really been the secret ingredient to, I think, finding some peace and some success in the industry, was just finding a community of people who are willing to support each other and share stories, and like you, Callie, like just trying to get in touch with my culture through hearing the stories of other people and really delving into that. And I would love to visit the Choctaw Nation in Mississippi and reconnect with that part of my culture. But there's just, you know, there's been so much fear leading up to that. Will they accept me? Will I, you know, honor them in what I'm doing, and just trying to continue that journey for not only my community, but just for myself, and accepting that, like, you know, this is beyond just me. It's cathartic. It's inherited karma being broken, cycles of trauma being broken, and really breaking free of the stereotypes and the fetishization of Native women, and you know, creating our own narrative.
Mm-hmm. Wow. That was really good. That was really wonderful. And for the listening audience, you know, Nora's films are coming out. So some have come out and will continue to be released. So stay tuned into Nora. Kimberly,
Hi.
what are you up to?
I am, first of all, I just have to say, Nora, yes, please go back to Mississippi Choctaw. They are just the kindest. I mean, I grew up around Choctaws in Oklahoma, and then it was really cool for me to get to go back to Mississippi Choctaw just to make that connection. But I mean, yes, I mean, I know they're just going to be so proud of you. And it's, again, we go back to the youth of just like, and then the elders too, that maybe knew your grandpa and things like that. But, mending that sacred hoop is just so important. And that's just powerful work Kaylee's been doing, and Tina's been living in, I'm sure, just Tina's like, I feel like Tina's just holding the hoop together just by sheer willpower. Bless you, Tina, for that work. And certainly Janelle's doing that as well. For me, just, still acting has been, I'm with you, Tina, and the rest of you as well. I've gotten more auditions now, which was shocking. I thought I'd turned 50 and I'm like, that's it, no more work. I thought I'd maybe work again when I was in my 70s and I could play, the grandma roles. And I've been working more in the last 2-3 years, and I've worked my entire career, which is a huge blessing. Ironically, I had kind of really put acting not on the back burner at all, but I'd really been focusing on screenwriting. And so, and really pouring myself into that because, Janelle, exactly what you said, that huge, like massive block of time where there were no Native women on television and in film. And so it was like, I had to, and I am a writer. And so it was like, you've got to, enough. Like, and it really was for Nora and for Kaylee and for the folks coming up underneath me. I was like, they're not having the same chances I had when I was in my 20s. And so, and that's really where you like kind of build that foundation if you're in 30s, if you're going to be in this industry. And so I'm like, okay, it's my turn to go and start writing roles for them. And so one of my TV scripts was purchased. And so we're with Galmont now, who does Narcos and Hemlock Grove. And so, yeah, just writing for all of you all right now. So that's been really, really great. And it's really wonderful learning that side of it, and the kind of power that you have in the room as a writer, and the power that you have. One good thing about, being my age and being on this side of it, it's like, I'm doing this for our people. I'm doing this for the world, because I don't think it's just our people that will benefit, because story is medicine, and this is good medicine we can put out in the world. And so it's really, I feel very grounded and excited about, when we start to I mean, the allies that I put around me and around this story are very, very chosen. And that there's the right, I told my whole team, I'm like, if we don't find the right team, I'd rather not do this show at all. Like just every person. And I want that to go all the way down the line where Kaylee, I'm like really pushed Joseph to be kind of bring him on early to be kind of, help shape the show, because I know how he worked so closely with you. And, so it's just, yeah, it's an exciting time. And that's what I mean about, I think I'm optimistic, because I'm seeing other showrunners, Sierra Teller Ornelas, and I think Taz was probably going to be showrunning soon on her show. Devery Jacob on Reservation Dogs and Rutherford Falls is now writing her own content. I just worked with Tio Horn up in Canada, who's writing her own content. And so I just think there's just like you, Nora and Tina and Kaylee, you're all three writers in this room. And so it's just, I think it's just, I'm really, really optimistic. I think that's where I'm ending, is because I think there's nothing going to stop us once we get those words on the page, and exactly what you said, Nora, we get those allies around us. Nothing can stop us.
Well, we've come up to our hour, and I just want to reflect real quickly that I'm just looking at everyone, listening to everyone, and feeling you all, and just realizing I'm an elder here. Not age-wise, I don't know if age, but probably age-wise too, but in regards to being in the industry, I became a SAG member in 1977, so it's been 44 years of being in this industry, and breaking that glass ceiling on different levels and different respects and in different categories. But what I'm hearing from this conversation, to wrap it up, is that the impact that we have as storytellers, and who tells the story, does matter. And our stories, and it's been very interesting, these conversations that we've been having this week during the Native Women in Film and Television Festival, is that our stories, Hollywood keeps regurgitating the same story over and over again with a different facelift, and then the same story, different facelift, same story. It's like, hey, you know, on everything. And no, I haven't had a facelift. Anyway, so on everything, right? So, but what we have, this is where I'm optimistic. This is where that yes and those wings are flying on, is that our stories have been untapped. We have stories upon stories upon stories upon stories. And even when we sit with an elder, not me, but when we sit with an elder and we listen to them, you know, even like one sentence, because their language, the language of our elders is so full of rhythm and poetry and harmony, right? That just one sentence we can take and make a film out of. I mean, it's just, and because the way we think, because our languages don't have words like hate and anger and the cuss words and all of that, we process differently. But at the end of the day, it's the human condition in storytelling. It's the relatable stories that we have because we're human. And the bottom line is that we all have red blood. Even our animals have red blood. And that's the relatable silver lining, right? So it's really powerful that we have this huge career, all of us as writers, this huge career, this huge glass ceiling that we're breaking to write our stories from a woman's point of view, a life giver's point of view. Even if we haven't given birth, we still have that gift. We have different energy. So I'm just excited about that, enthusiastic about that. And I want to thank you. I want to thank you, Tina and Keely and Kimberly and Nora, for joining the 13th annual Native Women in Film and Television in All Media Film Festival. And for our listening audience, you can go to our website, nativewomeninfilm.com, and experience us in watching 40 films directed by women. And tomorrow we have a conversation coming up titled The Producers Group. And we're going to sit down with Loretta Todd and a whole other group of Indigenous women. And that's going to be a powerful conversation in regards to being producers in this industry. Thank you all. I love you all. I adore all of you. I'm just crazy about this energy and how exciting it is for all of us, Native and Indigenous women in Hollywood. And just remember, you have a seat at this table. I love you. Keep up the great, 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 great work. Red Nation Celebration Institute, the authentic voice for American Indian and Indigenous nations, founded in 1995, now in its 27th year this August. The creative enterprise by Natives, delivering to all people the stories that shape our world. The longest standing Native women-led Indigenous media, arts, and cultural pioneer nonprofit enterprise in Los Angeles, with offices in Santa Fe, New Mexico, serving Indian country and the entertainment industry, representing 575 plus Native nations, established a rich legacy of work by supporting 5,000 plus Native Indigenous filmmakers. The mission is to break barriers of racism by creating systemic change through media and pop culture in order to eliminate Native American stereotypes. Our vision for the future of cinema is one in which Native Indigenous perspectives are authentically pictured, recognized, and valued in a way that promotes strong, authentic Native identities, economic outcomes, equality, and wellness for Indigenous communities. Our foundation is uniting creatives within our community with Hollywood to bring together a greater voice to the entertainment industry and the world at large. Red Nation Celebration Institute is honored and proud to work with strong leaders within our Native nations across Indian country America, and our Indigenous talent from directors, producers, writers, actors, and crew in front of and behind the camera, fostering the next generation of talent and leaders. Filmmakers have included the likes of Sterling Harjo, Loretta Todd, Mark Williams, James Bird, Tal Feathers, Kyle Harris, Daniel Foreman, Clea Benally, Randy Redborough. I could just go on and on with all the filmmakers that we have supported throughout our 27 years, including our allies that have made Native and Indigenous content themed films. Taylor Sheridan, Joe Billinger, Rebecca and Josh Tickle, Susanna White, Bridget Tillerman, Deborah Anderson, and I could go on and on with all of our allies. RNCI is a film ready with a catalog of new stories that are in pre-production, post-production, as well as new scripted content, including original programming. RNCI has year-round programming, and our properties are our Red Nation International Film Festival, our Native Women in Film and Television Film Festival, our Native Indigenous Student Academy for Cinematic Arts, and our Red Nation Television Network, predating Netflix, or before anyone was online streaming. We encourage you to come experience us, come experience Native Indigenous content, and you could visit us at rednationff.com, and on that site is all of the other sites that you could click into and take a journey and see what we're all about. I want to thank everybody for joining us today. It's been a really, really wonderful conversation, inspiring conversation for me, and I hope it was for you too. See you next time. Thank you, ladies.